Good morning, students. Today's topic is posture and equilibrium. So, yesterday you have seen vestibular apparatus which maintains the equilibrium of body in any posture. So, posture is the position in which your body is. That is, it may be either standing or sitting or supine posture. So, in that posture or position of body, equilibrium will be maintained. So, how that is carried out, we will see in today's class. So movement occurs due to muscle contraction. Activities in the muscle depend on discharge of spinal motor neurons. So spinal motor neurons are nothing but the alpha and gamma motor neurons which are present in the spinal cord ventral horn. These spinal motor neurons are continuously influenced by the impulses arriving from various supraspinal centers via descending fibers. So these supraspinal centers are nothing but brainstem, cortex, cerebellum and basal ganglia. Okay. These supraspinal inputs controlling the motor neurons carry out three important functions. That is initiation and execution of voluntary activities, coordination and smoothing of movements, and postural adjustments to provide a stable background for movement. Okay. So the supraspinal inputs carry out three functions. One is initiation and execution of voluntary activities and coordination and smoothing of movements which takes place in cerebellum and basal ganglia, and postural adjustments to provide a stable background for movement. So that is for movement like for walking, the postural adjustments are made continuously. So these three are the important functions of supraspinal centers. So today's class we should know about the reflexes which are used to maintain the posture and the types of various reflexes, and then the experimental evidences to prove the mechanisms integrated at different levels in regulation of posture. Okay, so what are the reflexes to maintain the posture and the various types of reflexes and the experimental evidences to prove the mechanisms integrated at different levels. That is, different levels means spinal cord level, brainstem level, midbrain level, thalamic level and cortical level. Okay. So these postural reflexes help to maintain the body in upright and balanced position. They also provide necessary adjustments to maintain a stable posture during voluntary activity, that it is any movement, walking or jumping or stand like this, any abnormal yoga posture. So the reflex arc of postural reflex, it contains the efferent pathway, integrating centers and efferent pathway. So efferent pathway comes from the eyes, vestibular apparatus and proprioceptors. Okay, so from these three, the afferent pathway or afferent fibers will come from eyes, vestibular apparatus and the proprioceptors. And integrating centers are formed by neuronal network in the brainstem and spinal cord. Okay, so the network in the brainstem and spinal cord forms the integrating center. And efferent pathway is alpha motor neurons which is present in the spinal cord, ventral horn of spinal cord, supplying various skeletal muscles, that is the effector organ. So the types of postural reflexes are two types, basically static and statokinetic. So in the static we have segmental, tonic and writing reflexes. Again in segmental we have these four whose center is in spinal cord, and in tonic the center is medulla, and for writing reflexes we have these five and whose centers are in midbrain and cerebral cortex. So in segmental reflexes we have stretch reflex, crossed extensor and positive supporting, negative supporting reaction. These two we have already seen in the spinal reflexes class. Okay, so the stimuli, response, receptor and the center. So for positive supporting reaction, stimuli will be contact with sole and the response is foot extended to support the body, and receptor is proprioceptor in the distal flexor, and negative supporting reaction is stretch. So this is negative means opposite to positive. It is release of positive supporting reaction, and the same proprioceptors of extensor muscles is the receptor. The tonic neck reflexes, the stimulus will be head turned to side or up or down, and the response will be when head is turned to side, change in pattern of extensor contraction, and when head is turned to up, forelegs extend and hind legs flex, and opposite when the head is turned to down. So for these three responses, the receptor is neck proprioceptor. And labyrinthine reflexes, tonic labyrinthine reflexes, the stimulus is gravity and the response is change in pattern of rigidity of limbs according to posture, and the receptor is otolith organs, and for these two the center is medulla. And the writing reflexes are labyrinthine writing reflexes, neck writing reflexes, body writing reflexes. So body writing reflexes are two types, body on head and body on body. So the labyrinthine writing reflexes stimuli is gravity and response is righting of head, that is correcting of head. Head position will be corrected to center. And the receptor here is otolith organs. And neck writing reflexes stimuli is stretch of the neck muscles and response is righting of thorax, shoulder and pelvis. So this is head, and beneath the head the thorax, shoulder and pelvis will be neck writing reflexes. The receptors are muscle spindles. And body writing reflexes, body on head, the stimuli is pressure on side of body, response is righting of head. Receptors are exteroceptors. And body writing reflex, body on body posture, that is pressure on the side of the body seen, and righting of body even when head held sideways. Okay, so the response is righting of body when though the head is held sideways. So here the reflex response is righting of head. Here the response is righting of body though the head is held sideways. And for both receptors are exteroceptors, and for these three the center is midbrain. And limb writing reflexes and optical writing reflexes. So in limb writing reflex we have placing reaction and hopping reaction. So the stimuli is lateral displacement while standing, and response is hops or places limbs to support the body, and receptors are muscle spindles. And optical writing reflexes are visual cues, and response is writing of head, and receptor is retina, that is rods and cones, and for these two the center is in cerebral cortex. So by seeing all these various names of reflexes, don't worry, because these reflexes in our daily life we are literally experiencing daily, but we don't know their names. So we will see each one in detail. So the types of postural reflexes, as I told you, static and statokinetic. Static means the reflexes which are involved in adjustments to displacement produced by gravity. So this is the main thing here. So adjustments are adjustments of the body to the displacement produced by gravity. So these are of three types: local static, so which will in this local static or segmental static we will be having the four reflexes, that is stretch reflex, crossed extensor, and then positive supporting, negative supporting reaction, and then general static reflexes. So in this tonic and writing reflexes we have. So the local static reflexes, these exert their effect on the same limb from which the stimulus was initiated. Okay, so the center is located in the spinal cord. Some of the important static reflexes are as I told you, stretch reflex, positive supporting, negative supporting reactions. So it is the most important local static reflex which controls the tone in those extensor muscles which keep the body upright. So those muscles are anti-gravity muscles. Okay, so stretch reflex is the most important local static reflex which controls the tone in those extensor muscles which keep the body upright. So those muscles are nothing but anti-gravity muscles. Positive supporting reaction is characterized by simultaneous reflex contraction of both extensors and flexors of a limb. It plays an important role of steadying the ankle joint in standing position. Okay, you can see the baby infant when the limbs are touching a surface. The foot, when we touch the foot to a surface, they will immediately take the support of the table and then support the body on these limbs. So the limbs will be like a rigid pillars. So they will become a rigid pillar like thing and they support the body and the person and the baby stands. So this reaction, as I told you, it is used to support the body. And a magnet reaction. So why it is magnet reaction? Because locus of pressure determines the direction of extension. So the stimuli, so how this positive supporting reaction is carried out means the stimuli is pressing the pads of the fingers or toes and the dorsiflexion of the hand and foot. So this pressing of these fingers and toes is against a surface, table or any floor like that. So the efferents are from skin and the muscles. And the effect or efferent pathway is that hand foot extended to support the body. So as a rigid pillar, the limbs become a solid rigid pillar, so which will support the body to stand. So cat and dog can stand up to 3 minutes by this positive supporting reaction. And negative supporting reaction is disappearance of positive supporting reaction. So this will be initiated by stretch of the extensor. So when during the positive supporting reaction, the muscles will be extended and the body will be standing on the limbs. So because of that, the stretch reflex which is present in the extensor muscles will be activated. So that will be leading to crossed extensor reflex, that is lifting of the limb. So the disappearance of positive supporting reaction, lifting of the limb, so the person will not stand for a long time. So the segmental static reflex is characterized by bilateral reflex response when stimulus is applied to one limb. So that is the best example is crossed extensor reflex, response component of withdrawal reflex. Okay, so the response component means one limb extension that is to support the body and other limb to withdraw from the painful stimulus. So the center of this reflex is in spinal cord itself. And the general static reflexes, these are characterized by generalized effect from many muscle groups in the body in response to a stimulus that arises at one side of a body. Okay, so the effect is generalized, which is arising from many muscle groups in response to stimulus that arises at one side of the body. So these can be divided into attitudinal, long loop stretch reflexes and writing reflexes. So the attitudinal reflexes are initiated when the attitude of the body is changed, that is while standing on an inclined plane. So when the position of the body or the attitude of the body is changed, so these attitudinal reflexes are initiated, which are of two types, tonic labyrinthine reflex and tonic neck reflex. So the tonic labyrinthine reflex, labyrinth is related to vestibular apparatus, so remember in that way. So these reflexes are produced in response to alternation in position of head relative to horizontal plane. That is, for example, while standing on an inclined plane. So the position of head is altered. So definitely what is present in head? Vestibular apparatus, which is used to maintain equilibrium. So that's why the name is tonic labyrinthine. And the pathway is stimulus, the change in gravity, and receptors, the otolith organs, utricle and saccule of labyrinth. And the efferents are from the receptors travel along the vestibular nerve. Center is vestibular and reticular nuclei present in spinal cord. And efferents are vestibulospinal and reticulospinal tracts which end on alpha motor neurons of spinal cord. And the reflex response is contraction of extensor muscles of limb. So in this way, the labyrinthine reflex, so when the person is standing on an inclined plane, so the head will be tilted to right. That leads to correction of the body. That how means extension. The left limb, the same when the head is tilted to right, the left limb will be flexed and the right limb will be extended to support the position, change in position of the head. The body will be changing its position in this way to maintain the gravity and balance. When the head is tilted backward, the forelimbs will be flexed and hind limbs will be extended. So this is on an inclined plane. And the tonic neck reflex. These reflexes are produced in response to alternation in position of head relative to body. Okay, so tonic labyrinthine is alternation in position of head relative to gravity, and here the position of head is changed relative to body. Okay, so the pathway is stimulus is stretch of the neck muscles and receptors, pacing and corpuscles in the ligaments of cervical joint and muscle spindle of neck muscles. Center is in medulla and efferents are corticospinal tracts. In the tonic neck reflex, the response produced depends on position of head in relation to body. So when you turn the head downwards, it causes flexion of forelimbs, that is upper limbs or hands. Forelimbs and hind limbs means we are talking these words in response or in relation to experimental animals. Okay, so if you apply this to human beings, we can call upper limb and lower limb. So flexion of the forelimb and extension of hind limbs. And when the head is turned upside, it causes reverse of above, that is extension of forelimbs and flexion of hind limbs. And when the head is turned sideways, it produces flexion of limb of that side, that is to which side the head is turned. That will be jaw limb, and extension of contralateral limb, that is occipital side. Okay. So in this picture you can see when the head is turned to one side, so this side limb will be extended, the opposite occipital limb will be flexed. And here when the head is turned up, okay, above, the forelimbs are flexed and hind limbs are extended. And so this is down, sorry, when the head is turned down, and this is when the head is turned up, the forelimbs will be extended and hind limbs will be little flexed. So this is towards the sideways. So again, this is one more example, neck flexed forward, forelimbs flexed and hind limbs extended, and neck flexed to the left. So to the left side, left limb will be flexed and right limb will be extended. And the long loop stretch reflexes are also called functional stretch reflexes. These are polysynaptic with the center of reflex arc in the cerebral cortex. And these reflexes are continuously active in erect posture. So they bring about continuous correction of the sways that occur from moment to moment during standing. So these are functional stretch reflexes which are polysynaptic and the center is in cerebral cortex. So these are continuously active in erect posture. So when we are in standing posture for a long time, so these functional stretch reflexes are continuously active. So why they are important means they bring about correction of sways. So many of us will be experiencing this. When we stand continuously for a long time, we'll experience some swaying to one side. So that will be corrected by these long loop stretch reflexes or functional stretch reflexes. And the righting reflexes help to correct the position of body when it goes off balance and falls down. So these reflexes consist of a chain of reactions following one another in an orderly sequence. So what are those chain of reactions? We will see now. So for example, if an animal is laid on its side or back, head rights itself followed by body and animal finally resumes upright posture. Okay, so when the animal is laid on its side or back, so first, suppose you can see in this first, the head is becoming corrected. So the body is upside down. First, the animal will turn its head down and then the body will be changing its position, and then the whole limbs will be coming down to touch the surface. So first head rights itself followed by body and finally resumes the upright posture. So the sequence or events are: it is initiated when the animal's head is in lateral position. Impulses arising from the saccules reflexively stimulate the appropriate muscles to bring head back to upright position. So the body righting reflex is when animal lies on the ground, the side in contact with the ground is constantly stimulated while the other side is not stimulated. So this differential stimulation of deep structures in the body will reflectively rights the head. So one side of body is continuously stimulated while the other side is not. So this differential stimulation reflexly rights the head. So body righting reflex. So the head is righted by the above two reflexes. The above two means head righting or labyrinthine righting and body righting reflex. But body still remains in lateral position. So this leads to twisting of neck and this brings thorax and lumbar regions successively into upright posture. So compared to this picture and this picture, you can observe. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the head is changing its position to upright, that is downside. Here the animal is in air, so it is tilted upside down and then it is coming down to the floor or the table. So here the body is still in lateral position, and then after the head righting and body righting reflex, the neck will be righted. So this leads to twisting of necks, and which brings the thorax and lumbar region into upright posture. If the righting of head is prevented, impulses from body surface may cause righting of body directly. So this is body on body righting reflex. So this is when, if the righting of head is prevented, head righting reflex is prevented, so the body on body reflex will come into action. And then the limbs righting reflex. Impulses arising from limb muscles leads to attainment of appropriate posture of limbs. And optical righting reflexes. Optical impulses also cause righting of the head in animals with intact visual cortex. And the center for these righting reflexes, except optical righting reflex, is red nucleus lying in the midbrain. Okay, so red nucleus lying in the midbrain is the center for these righting reflexes. And for this optical righting reflex, the center is in visual cortex. And the statokinetics. So till now we have seen various static reflexes. So local static, segmental static and general static. So all these reflexes are very important. So what happens to these reflexes when we cut the animal at different sections? Okay, so that is experimental animals. So statokinetic reflexes are vestibular placing reaction. The stimulus is linear acceleration and receptors are in ventricle and saccule. Center is cerebral cortex. Response is as soon as the foot comes in contact of any firm surface, it is reflexly placed on the surface in position to support the body. So this is a positive supporting. So when the foot comes in contact of any firm surface, it reflexly places the foot in standing position to support the body. So this is vestibular placing. So for this, the stimulus is linear acceleration while walking. So we can take another example, linear acceleration walking. And visual placing reaction. The stimulus is visual cues, receptors arise, center is cerebral cortex, and response is same as above. That is, when the limbs come into the touch the surface, automatically it places on the surface and to support the body. And one more reaction is hopping reaction. Stimulus is lateral displacement while standing. Suppose you are standing when your friend moves you sidewards. Okay, so you jump and then correct your body to stand again on a stable posture. So the receptors are muscle spindle, center cerebral cortex, hopping movement that keeps the limb in position to support the body when standing animal is pushed laterally. So till now we have seen various types of reflexes to maintain the posture. So now we will see the animal preparations, experimental animal preparations to study these postural reflexes. So in which level the reflexes are present and in which level some reflexes are absent. So the scientists have taken five types of animals, that is spinal animal, decerebrate, midbrain, thalamic and decorticate. So what are these names meanings we will see in the next slide. So in the spinal animal, the section is immediately below the medulla, so that the spinal cord connection with the brain will be lost. So here only the segmental, which the reflexes which are having center in spinal cord, only those will be presented. So the reflexes which are present center whose center is in spinal cord are four reflexes: stretch reflex, cross extensor, positive supporting and negative supporting. So only those will be present and remaining will be absent in spinal animal. And the next is decerebrate. So this is section is mid-collicular. Colliculi are superior and inferior which are present in medulla. So between those two colliculi, the section we are cutting, so it is mid-collicular. So in this, the reflexes which are intact are segmental and tonic neck and labyrinthine, tonic neck and tonic labyrinthine reflex, and remaining writing reflexes are absent. And the midbrain animal is when we cut the animal in above the midbrain. Okay, so midbrain will be its contact with the brain, higher center will be lost. So in this, the segmental, tonic and labyrinthine in writing reflexes we have two separate, right? So labyrinthine, head writing reflex, neck writing reflex and body writing. So only till these three it will be intact, and limb and optical writing reflex are lost. And in decorticate, that is removing the entire cortex, we have again three intact and one cortical reflexes will be lost. And in thalamic, we are keeping the thalamus intact. So above thalamus we are giving a section. So here the four will be intact. The limb writing reflex also will be intact, and only the optical writing reflex will be lost. So this spinal animal, so one by one we will see. Spinal animal is prepared by sectioning the cord at cervical level, that is immediately below the brainstem, and significance is segmental, intersegmental reflexes can be studied. So these four, and characteristics: absence of reflexes for a period of days or weeks, and the spinal man cannot stand unsupported. Decerebrate animal is one in whom brainstem is transected at intercollicular level, that is between the superior and inferior colliculi. So this decerebrate animal or decerebrate rigidity, okay, we call it as decerebrate rigidity because of loss of those writing reflexes. So this is very important question. This will come as an essay. Okay, so directly they won't give all those postural reflexes and um, like write down the various types of postural reflexes. The question will not come like that. So the question will come as what is decerebrate rigidity and explain its features. So in features we should write or elaborate the reflexes which are present in this decerebrate animal and the reflexes which are absent. So in that way you should write. So first of all, what is a decerebrate animal and what are its features? So the features are characteristically decerebrate rigidity. It refers to marked increase in tone of extensors, that is anti-gravity muscles, which occurs immediately after decerebration. So what is this, how the decerebrate rigidity looks like? There will be hyperextension of all four limbs and dorsiflexion or hyperextension of tail and head. So you can see the head and tail is flexed above, that is dorsiflexion, hyperextension. So it will be the shape will be like this, concave. So extreme hyperextension of spine, that is opisthotonus, produces concave configuration of back. The animal can be made to stand on four limbs but is easily toppled by slight push. So if this animal it is present in this position, it can't maintain it for a long time. So it will be easily toppled. So if we give a slight push, it will be easily toppled and it will fall down. So this is a hyperextension of all four limbs and dorsiflexion of tail and head. So in humans, it will be like this. Okay, so this is decorticate, this is decerebrate. So extension, hyperextension of all four limbs. Head is turned up, dorsiflexion. So this, because this is supine, it is turned sidewards. And mechanism of decerebrate rigidity. This occurs due to increased activity of motor neurons that facilitate the stretch reflex. So facilitation of stretch reflex occurs due to increased rate of gamma motor neuron discharge. So this stretch reflex in my spinal reflex class, I have told you the higher control of stretch reflex, facilitatory areas and inhibitory areas. So for understanding this mechanism, you should know again about that facilitatory and inhibitory areas. So this may, what is happening? The stretch reflexes are continuously facilitated. It means the inhibition of stretch reflex is lost. Okay, so we will see why that inhibition is lost, because so this is the picture which I have told you now, facilitatory area and inhibitory area. So because the section is made at this level, so the inhibition of this stretch reflex is lost. So how the rigidity occurs means release phenomenon, because inhibitory influence on gamma motor neuron from the cerebral cortex and basal ganglia is lost, and the unopposed facilitatory effect of brainstem areas and vestibular nucleus on gamma and alpha motor neurons, their activity will be increased, leading to increased muscle tone. So the section of posterior nerve roots abolishes the rigidity in those muscles. Okay, so if you want to take out that rigidity, we should cut the posterior nerve roots so that the rigidity will be, that facilitatory effect is also lost. So we have two types of decerebrate rigidity. One is Sherrington's classical decerebration and Pollack and Davis ischemic decerebration. So here what is the difference means, in Sherrington's decerebration we do section at mid-collicular level, whereas here simply ligating the carotid arteries so that the blood supply will be lost. So when the blood supply is lost, the nerve cells in that area will be dead. So that is ischemic. Ischemic is dead cells. Ischemic decerebration. And this Sherrington's is fatal procedure, and this ischemic is safe procedure. Here the cerebellum is intact and here damaged, and this is decerebrate rigidity. The same features will be present here also, but this rigidity is gamma rigidity and this is alpha rigidity. Okay. So why here gamma and why here alpha? So if you are interested, so just go check out the textbook. So in Guyton and also in any standard book, we have this gamma rigidity and alpha rigidity. So here the Sherrington's rigidity increased by removal of cerebellum, and there is no such effect here, and rigidity abolished by deafferentation and again no such effect here. And rigidity abolished by drugs like phenothiazine. So for this also, in this ischemic, no such effect. So rigidity increased by removal of cerebellum, abolished by deafferentation, and also drugs like phenothiazine. So like this, there is no such effect in ischemic decerebration. So again the same after decerebrate rigidity, other features which we see in animal is no spinal shock, and postural reflexes are those which have their center in spinal cord, medulla or pons. These include stretch reflexes, positive and negative supporting, crossed extensor, tonic neck and labyrinthine reflexes will be present. Writing reflexes are absent. So this is thalamic animal. So thalamus intact and rest of the cerebral hemispheres are removed. So it can be done with cerebellum or without cerebellum. So it is used for studying the writing reflexes. So the characteristic is only the optical writing reflex will be lost. So decorticate animal is one in whom the whole cerebral cortex is removed but the basal ganglia and brainstem are left intact. So here the moderate rigidity will be present. Cortex inhibits the medullary reticulospinal tract. Therefore, the removal of cortex results in facilitation of gamma motor neuron discharge. So, it is seen only when the animal is at rest. So, here again the facilitation of gamma motor neurons, which will be the cause for rigidity. Okay. So, the features are same as decerebrate rigidity. So the characteristic features of a decorticate man consists of full extension of the legs. So this is full extension of legs on all four examples we can see, and arms lying across the chest or sometimes semi-flexion at elbow and the slight pronation of forearm, and especially flexion will be present at wrist and fingers. Okay, you can see in all the pictures there is flexion at wrist and fingers. So the writing reflexes are present, only the limb and optical writing reflexes are absent. And the vestibular reflexes, vestibular ocular and vestibular spinal reflexes. So these are for equilibrium. The function of these vestibular reflexes are vestibular ocular stabilizes gaze during fast head movement, and vestibulospinal reflex sends information regarding gravity and linear acceleration to body muscles. Okay, so ocular means it stabilizes gaze eyesight during the fast head movement, and spinal reflex, it sends information regarding the gravity and linear acceleration to body muscles. So suppose this is an example of vestibulo-ocular. Stimulus is head movement, afferent is vestibular nerve. Here this is a vestibular nucleus and the motor neurons, and finally the oculomotor nerve is afferent. Extraocular muscles are the effector organs. So this is vestibulo-ocular reflex. So same that like this for vestibulospinal reflex, the reflex arc will be present. So that's all for today. I hope you understood something, because this is a little bit difficult to understand. For the first time you will not be able to understand anything. So if you know the basic, the previous classes, if you read that classes, then only you will be able to understand this class. So various postural reflexes and the experimental animals. So in this today's class, only the decerebrate and decorticate animals, those will come as questions. So in that you should explain the various reflexes which are present and which are absent. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you all, and hope you are all maintaining your posture correctly while you are reading. So this is very important. So thank you again.